Hey everyone. What's up?
Hey. What's up?
You can't
Here we are
drop
again.
What's
drop
up?
a time limit in the first second of the episode before I even have time to process that. You didn't tell us in advance. So
Who?
now
What?
you didn't
What?
tell us in advance
Cool.
that you have a time limit. So now I have to I had so many good stories for you this week on this episode.
No,
So now I
you
have to
didn't.
cut back all the things I
No,
prepared.
you didn't. No, yeah. Okay. All right.
It's a long list.
send
I'll
me an
send you
email.
an email. That's a
Send me an
great
email.
idea. But I did have one funny
I
story.
have you anyways on spam,
Oh,
so it
that's
doesn't
nice.
matter. Yeah.
That's so nice of you.
Okay.
I had one funny story today that just is a lesson maybe about humility, because I gave a little talk somewhere, and usually I'm extremely self-critical when I speak, and I always think like I didn't do well and I messed up. But this time I was like, oh, I think that was really good, and I was really proud of myself. And I started like being kind of self-congratulatory to myself as I was walking out, and people were walking out of the
Wow.
room with me. And just
She needs
as
help.
I was feeling so good about myself, I fell down the stairs in front of everyone. So at
Where
the
were you?
school at Hebrew Academy,
There are
just
stairs
going out of the
there?
library, there's like little stairs.
Like there's one
Well, I
stair.
missed. No, it's more than one, and I missed one.
Okay, there's two. It's not like you fell down a
No, it
flight of
wasn't a
stairs.
flight
Let's
of
be honest.
stairs,
I mean,
but
like there's one, you fell one stair down. Okay.
That almost makes it worse, because at least if you fall down a flight of stairs, at least people will be concerned about you. If
Yes.
you fall down like 2 stairs, people just make fun of you.
I missed
I mean,
the stair, okay, and I tumbled down, and it was just I felt like Hashem was
And
like, "Calm down."
Was everybody
Yes,
outside?
everybody was standing there, so everyone went, "Oh my god!"
There's a lesson here.
Oh, that's sad. That is so sad.
There's a lesson there. I think we've talked about this these rules.
Yeah.
Not flying too high in
It's
the
true.
sun.
It's true.
That's
Yeah.
It happens. It
Yeah.
happens. People
Yeah.
fall
No,
downstairs.
but I really felt like it was Hashem telling me to, like, you're not that great. Calm
Yeah.
down.
Don't they talk about that in Pirkei Avot?
Yeah. Yes. Don't think highly of yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always just to stay
Yeah.
humble.
Yeah.
Always stay
Yeah,
humble.
it's true.
Did you see my text from earlier about the person in attendance at the Douglas Murray event last
The
night?
what?
The special person in attendance at the Douglas Murray
No.
event last
what?
night?
Who?
Oh, Sam Harris was there.
Yeah. I saw it was tweet. I saw it
I
tweeted
am
out today.
so sad.
He
No,
tweeted
I'm
out.
so sad.
I was like, this is Chayleia's shot to get him.
I know.
on-
I'm so sad I
Ask a
didn't meet
Jew.
him. I know. Oh well. I was probably so close to
was
him,
there
by the
last
way. But of course, my vanity. Here's another lesson, right? Because if I would have been wearing my glasses, I probably would have been able to see who was around me. But because I wouldn't wear my glasses, I was blind and I could not see anybody. And it was kind of dark in the theater. And there's another lesson. Don't be vain. So there, we already gave 2 lessons today.
Do we have to continue with the episode?
No, I think we can end it right there.
I think already we summed everything up already here.
Oh my
I think we're
God.
good. Don't fall downstairs and
upstairs.
wear
Don't-
your glasses.
Don't be
Exactly.
vain. You're so vain.
Anyway, so we are going to talk about my favorite Jewish holiday today. And I might have said that before, but this is actually really my favorite Jewish holiday. I mean, I like Purim, I like Shavuot, but really Sukkot is my favorite Jewish holiday. And we are just going to be coming off of the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which are kind of more serious and sort of, even though my father likes to talk about it in a hopeful, optimistic way, but they're definitely heavier holidays than this holiday, which is
Sure.
literally a time of joy and celebration. And it's a beautiful, beautiful holiday. And I'm sure my father will want to tell us, because I know it's hard that I've spent 44 years in his presence. So I know that he's going to say the same joke that he says every year, that Sukkot is like the stepchild that no one cares about because
See,
what?
no. I say it's
orphan. Sorry, I messed it up. But
Okay. Yeah, you see? So obviously 44 years is not enough.
I only half listened.
This is why you don't tell other people's jokes.
True. It's true, but everybody knows to show up for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and then all of a sudden, when the really fun, amazing holiday show comes around, we can't find people to celebrate. So we hope that during this episode, we will inspire you to want to participate in this beautiful holiday, because there are many different ways that you can participate, and there's lots of things to learn. So I hope that you get something out of this. Yeah.
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 All right. Let's
We
do
all
it.
ag- We all
Good.
agree. Yeah, we all agree.
I'm glad we're all on the same page. Okay.
So, so what is Sukkot, Rabbi? What
Yeah.
is
It's
this
a good
magical?
question.
It's magical
It's a very good
holiday
question. No one
that
really knows.
Chayleah
No one-
has spent so much time talking up.
I don't know. No one really knows because it's such a hidden holiday. Everybody knows about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. We're like only speculating. What is Sukkot? Is there actually a holiday called Sukkot? No, in the Torah it tells us that there are 3 major holidays during the year. One of them, of course, is Passover. We know that is celebrated because of the release of the Jews from Egypt. We also know that there's Shavuot, which is the celebration of the giving of the Torah, and then there's Sukkot. And Sukkot always falls out in the fall, and there's actually a disagreement as to why we sit in a sukkah. Now, what is a sukkah? A sukkah is a booth. It's a temporary dwelling, and it tells us in the Torah that for a number of days, 7 days, one should take everything out of his house, almost everything, and move it into a temporary lodging called a sukkah. And that's where we hang out. Now, we don't sleep in the sukkah, but we do eat in the sukkah, and we hang out in the sukkah, and we study in the sukkah. We don't pray in the sukkah. We go to shul for prayers. But why is this holiday around? So there's an argument, in the Talmud. Number one is that when the Jews left Egypt, God made a sukkah for them. God made temporary dwellings for them, and they had those temporary dwellings in the desert. So to commemorate the temporary dwellings that we had in the desert, we have a sukkah here with in the diaspora. The other opinion goes that it was not a temporary booth that was celebrated, but it was the clouds of glory that God had put on the Jewish people when they left Egypt, and while they were traveling in the desert, the Jews were accompanied by what we call the clouds of glory that would cover them and would protect them from the heat. It would, take away all of the unnecessary trials and tribulations that you would normally have when traveling through a desert. It would flatten the land. It would take away the scorpions and the snakes and all of those things. So, to commemorate the clouds of glory that surrounded the Jewish camp, that's why we have what we call Sukkot. We have this holiday where we actually build it. Now, the sukkah itself, interestingly, could be a permanent fixture. That's not a problem. If you want to build a sukkah in your backyard and keep it all year round, not a problem whatsoever. What has to be temporary is the roof, what we call schach. And then schach, which is easy for Jews to say, but no Gentile has ever been able to say the word schach. Is what we use is either we use bamboo, which is the more modern way of using the cover for the roof, but there has to be openings. You have to be able to see the stars outside. So the people use all different types of of leaves and branches and wood to to cover your sukkah. And because that is not affixed to the sukkah, it has to lay on the sukkah. Therefore, it's called temporary because that could come off. And when I say it could come off, I mean it can really come off because I grew up in Montreal, where during Sukkot it was not uncommon to have a cold and winter, and there were times when our schach literally flew off our sukkah. We used to use these green branches from a tree and some evergreen. I mean, you don't see evergreen here in California, but those are like pine needles, and they would fall into our soup. It was a fun holiday for all. It was a really, really fun holiday for all. And one year, it got so cold that the snow literally caved our sukkah in with a little bit of my help when I leaned back and knocked out the wood that was holding up the schach, and the whole schach fell in on me and my father. But that's basically the holiday of Sukkah. So for 7 days, we go out there in a temporary booth called a sukkah, and eat there and rejoice there and have fun there and hang out
Yeah.
there.
Some
And that's
some people
that's
some
what
people
sukkah
do
is.
have a custom of sleeping in their sukkah. It's not a Chabad custom.
Yeah.
We don't do that, but many Orthodox Jews actually build like an area in the sukkah and they put beds in there, and the men, not the women, but the men will
Yes.
sleep in the sukkah. In fact,
Yeah.
I think it's important to say this because people, I don't think, realize what it means, but in our tradition, men are required to be in a sukkah anytime that they're eating any food or drink, even a soda or a coffee or any food they would eat.
Well,
That's
that's
I'm
Chabad
saying our
custom.
custom. That's our
That's the custom. To eat
everything has to
everything
be
in the
eaten in the
sukkah.
sukkah. So that means
Right.
like if
There's other
right,
people
not women. By the way, women are not obligated to eat in the sukkah, which is great. We do because it's nice and it's a mitzvah anyway, and it's beautiful. But if it's raining, I'll sit inside, and my husband and the boys will sit in the sukkah. If it's 1,000 degrees, I will sit inside, and my husband will eat in the sukkah, and that's fine. But the interesting part is like when we go out, because it's a 7-day holiday, only the first 2 days and the last 2 days are like Shabbat days where we don't drive or use technology, but the middle days, which is called Chol HaMoed, which we'll talk about, you can go out and drive, and and the family is usually all home and they're off school, so it's a good time to like go on family trips and stuff. So what do you do about food? Because Disneyland doesn't have a sukkah, right? But you can't go to Disneyland all day and not eat. So there are all these really interesting kind of improvised sukkahs that people do. Like there's something called a pop-up sukkah that you pop out of your car. And yeah, and
Really?
we've done it many
Yep.
times. We've taken it with us to ball games, to Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, wherever we go, we take a pop-up sukkah with us. And
Doesn't look
it's weird.
It doesn't look very weird in the parking lot. You're pulling out of your trunk.
Describe this
It's like
to me.
it's like
What does
like
it
a pop-up
look like?
tent kind of, except it doesn't have a
So, yeah.
cover, so it's like the walls pop up, and then you unroll a tiny little schach mat, which is that you put on the top, and
which has
it has to be
by
kosher,
the way.
right? It has to all be
It has to fit according
yeah.
to
There's like
halacha.
regulations. You have to have
Rules and regulations of how to
Right.
make that. That's a little bit
right,
complicated.
and then the boys and
So that's good. So you don't have to go like hunting around for like
no.
leaves and
Although I'll
stuff like
tell a
that.
story about that in a second.
That would be
I
so
know.
weird. Why
Well-
would we do that?
well,
we don't do
last
anything
year,
weird.
wait,
Like sitting in the middle of a parking lot in an
it is
open
weird.
tent. Yeah,
And then they all
like
squeeze
the
in there.
security guards never wonder what's going on here. I mean,
It's so funny because they
you
all
know.
squeeze inside, and then they're like eating in there, and everybody's like walking by.
How big is
It's
how
small.
big is it?
It's like
it fits for 2 people, but with Jews
Yeah,
you get 20
yeah.
people in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Because
yeah.
everybody's
no,
hungry.
like
So you normally capacity is 2, but then of course it's like that little
Yes.
car with those with
Yes.
clowns. That's what happened. Like 20 people come
It's
out of the
true.
sukkah, and everybody's wondering what the
It's,
hell.
it seems like terrible planning because any Jew that is going to go to that length to travel with a sukkah, there is no way there's only 2
it's
people in
true.
the family.
That's right.
No,
That's so funny.
no.
Last year,
There's no
last
chance.
year was interesting. I hope no like actual rabbis who like decide on Jewish law are listening, because I don't know if this actually passes, but we went on a boat and we took the boys wakeboarding, which is like a sport in the water. But they wanted to be able to have some snacks and drinks. So we took with us branches. My boys were literally walking through the parking lot dragging palm branches with them. And we had with us some wall. I don't remember exactly what they brought. And we made a sukkah on the boat so that in this one little area so that they could have snacks. I mean, my husband said it was fine, so I'm going with that. And I trust he wouldn't cheat on these things like I would. So I trust that it was okay. But they made is that okay, Ta? A sukkah on a boat?
Yeah. Sure, you can, yeah.
Isn't there
have a
something
sukkah
in
on
the
a boat.
Talmud about a
Sure.
sukkah with elephants or something?
You can make a sukkah out of anything. The walls of the sukkah could be anything. As long as they don't move, you can get 4 elephants to stand pat for 7 days. Yeah, you can have a sukkah made out of
That's
elephants.
so
It's
interesting.
okay. It's okay. I mean, because there are
Yeah,
walls.
yeah.
I mean, if you can elephant, but generally I would not
No, I
suggest that,
agree.
because there's so many other different ramifications when you have an elephant sukkah. But I wouldn't
Right.
worry about that. I don't think that was. I think that was just some wise guy in the Talmud just wanting to be
Snarky.
smart that day. Yeah. And say,
It
can you
is
do that?
amazing though. You go online and you look for some of these designer
Oh, yeah.
sukkahs that people I don't know if they build them themselves. I'm assuming they probably have them
Yeah.
built. I'm guessing. It
Yeah.
is it's nicer than
It's
my house.
wild. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, sure, of course.
I
I mean,
mean,
once you're going to be in there for a week, I mean, you might as well spruce it up if
But
you
it's
can.
it's
You
kind
know,
of a
like I'm
yeah.
modern
sure, like
thing though, don't
making
you think, Todd? I feel like when I was a kid, sukkahs were simple. Like everybody just had wooden
yes, of
walls
course,
or
but it comes with
yeah.
affluence. I mean, listen, in Eastern Europe, when no one
Right.
had anything, a sukkah was whatever you
Yeah.
can find. You made a sukkah from. But of course, as we come to America, and America doesn't know of anything called a
Right.
shortage or anything like or something. So of course, now if a guy puts up a sukkah with real wood, you have to put up a sukkah with
Right.
bricks.
Right.
And if he puts it up with bricks, you're gonna have to then coat it with
Yeah.
lime.
I
And it
saw
just
this
keeps going on
I
and
saw
on
one
and
this week
on.
I really wanted to buy, but it was so expensive. It's a lucite sukkah. So all the walls are see-through. It's lucite. And then you have
mm,
like it's
But that's nice.
beautiful, but it was like
mm,
$4,000 for a small and we needed like the bigger one. So
Uh,
maybe
holy
if this
moly.
podcast
no, but
goes
that
big
Wow.
and we get, super rich.
No, but
Here we come.
that's the holiday of Sukkot. The main thing is to rejoice in the Sukkah and to eat in the Sukkah
Yeah.
together, have a good time. Back in biblical times, when the temple stood, many, many, many sacrifices were brought in the temple in honor of Sukkahs. I mean,
Mm,
there's an enormous amount, of sacrifices being brought, and you could take a look at it, in the Torah. And then there was a special holiday called Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. There
Yeah.
was a celebration on the second night of Sukkot where people would come with pouring water. There was a ceremony called pouring of the water, and people would dance and sing, and then Jerusalem would light up, and they would say in the Talmud it says that you were miles and miles away from Jerusalem, you can
Yeah.
see it, you can see that the whole city lit up, and anyone the Talmud says anyone that did not see the rejoicing of the Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, of the pouring of the water in Jerusalem, never saw rejoicing
Yeah.
in his life. I mean, it was like, people coming together and having just such a good time. It was the holiday; they didn't have to worry about going to work or anything like that, and it was just simply joy.
Yeah.
Where Pesach is the remembrance, Zman Cheresenu, is the remembrance of our freedom. So there's always that Egypt thing hanging over our
Hmm.
heads. Shavuos is the giving of the Torah, so but you have to study Torah. But Sukkot is literally called Zman Simchosenu. It's the period of our rejoicing to just love and to have a good
Yeah.
time in the spirit of Judaism. You had to do it in the spirit of Judaism. This is not what we call holiness. This is not debauchery that we're talking about. This is
Yeah.
not like in New Orleans,
Right.
Mardi Gras.
mm,
This is not
mm,
Mardi
mm.
Gras. This is done, with respect, to Judaism, but still the simple, pure joy that you have from Sukkot. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of Sukkot, and that's one of the mitzvahs.
Yeah, I was
The
just
other
gonna get
mitzvah,
into
of
the
course, is taking of the
right.
four species, where the Torah says on the holiday of Sukkot, you're supposed to take four species: a lulav, which is a
The palm
branch of the,
branch.
the palm tree, a myrtle, and a rava, which is a willow branch, and a myrtle branch, and an esrig, which comes from the citrus family. An esrig. It's not a
It's a
lemon, but it's an
citron.
esrig, and you take the four of
Yeah.
citron. You take the four of them together, and you bind the three. Besides the citron, you bind the other three species, which is the lulav, the willow, and the myrtle, and you make a blessing over it every day. And you shake it a little bit. I'll explain why do we take the four species, besides it being a mitzvah in the Torah. As we've talked about a number of times, Israel during the times of the temple was mostly a gregarian society. So we very much centered our holidays around the year of growth and of gathering. Sukkot is Chag HaOsif. Sukkot is called the holiday of ingathering because you left all of your crops to dry during the summer, and when the fall came, you gathered them into your home, which is a great joy, which is a great simcha. So to celebrate, the bounty, we take these four species like the willow and the myrtle and the hadas, and there's all different reasons why these three, and of course the esrig, which represents all of the fruits that we the bounty of the fruits. And you have those four species, and the reason why you shake him is because you want to shake away all of the bad winds that are going to come. God forbid, you have an eastern wind that can really destroy your crops, or you have other bad winds, bad weather that can destroy your crops. So this is a prayer that we do in order to make sure that the bad winds don't
Mm.
reach us, and that we're able to really benefit from the bounty that we're going to need for the rest for the rest
Mm.
of the year. So that is all tied up. Now that part of it, I mean, it's lost to us because in the United States of America, very few Jews are farmers anymore. We don't do farming, so we don't appreciate really what goes into having a crop. I mean, when we buy a loaf of bread, we hardly ever think about what really goes into that. I mean, you think about all you have to plow, and you have to plant, and you have to thresh, and you have to winnow, and all different processes, and then you have to grind,
Mhm.
and you have to bake, and so in the times of the temples, we really, really, really appreciated the hard work that went in, and we thank God for the greatest blessing because He gave us rain in order for the crops to grow and gave us a good
Yeah.
bounty. So it's really was a tremendous joy, to get together, after a successful year and to celebrate together, in Jerusalem. We do the same thing. We kind of imitate the Simchas Beis Hasheva, the rejoicing. Some bigger communities do it every night. Smaller communities do it maybe once or twice during Sukkot, but always at a time in the evening where the community gets together with music and dancing and joy and and eating and rejoicing and just celebrating in a holy and timely and good manner. This is basically what the holiday of Sukkot
Who
really is
who
all
who
about.
who's responsible for the shaking of the leaves?
So that really is everybody really has taken upon themselves, even women also, even though they are exempt. We talked about beforehand any time bound mitzvah that is a women are exempt, but in
We are
America
exempt
today,
from that?
women,
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's time bound. Anything that's time bound, but women have taken upon themselves to shake the lulav and nesrig, and therefore they are required, to do that because now you have the time to do it, so they do it. So everybody, men, women, children, all shake the lulav and
It's
nesrig.
actually a really beautiful mitzvah in a way because
Oh, it's easy,
it's
so
not well,
easy,
also when you learn, like we're
beautiful.
taught as kids, what the different things represent, there's different ways of looking at it, I'm sure you could go into it more detailed, but one of the things that I
Right.
like to think about is how each one represents a different part of our body, like the spine, the palm branch is our spine, and we have and the lips and our eyes and our heart, and how each of those pieces play a role in our service to Hashem and our the way we are in the world. And when we put it all together, we're able to do beautiful things. And I don't know, I like that explanation. I don't know if there's more to say on that, but
That's good. No, there's a lot to say, the
yeah,
symbolism, everything in the Torah also has a tremendous amount of symbolism, and the four species certainly
yeah,
have that. The Sukkah obviously talks about the unity of the Jewish people, everyone coming together. And the greatest, there are people that literally, decorate the Sukkah, like Jay was saying before. I mean, just incredibly
yeah,
beautiful. Our custom is not really to put what we call noise Sukkah, decorations of the Sukkah, but guests are our
yeah.
decoration. The greatest, most beautiful thing is the guests that we have in our sukkah. So it's a time of coming together, community, unity in the community, in the sukkah, and that's really, really rejoice. We rejoice with that. And the same thing is true. The symbolism of the four species, because each of the species have some type of a
Right.
quality. We talk about two main aspects within Judaism is Torah study and good deeds. Each one is represented. The Torah study is a good smell. The good deeds are, taste good. So you have the lulav, and the lulav, which represents the Torah scholars. The only has one of the two aspects. It has no smell, but it tastes good. The other one is the myrtle, which I said it tastes good. Has
Right. No
smell but
taste.
doesn't
Yeah.
taste good. Then
The
the
willow.
citrus, which has good. The citrus has a good smell and a good taste, and the willow, which
Right.
has neither. So you have these represents the four types of Jews that we have. We have those that are Torah studies, and they study Torah all day, and and excel in Torah study. You have those people that do good deeds and excel in doing mitzvahs. Then you have those that do both. That's the citrus, and then unfortunately you have those that lack both the Torah study and but when it comes together for the mitzvah of lulav, you have to have
Mhm.
everybody. No one, even the willow that has neither, of those components of a good smell and a good taste, have to be
Right.
included. have to be included. And if you take the other three and not include the willow, you haven't fulfilled your obligation. So this is a holiday that really represents the unity of the Jewish people. That no matter how far you travel away from Judaism, you could have neglected it, you could be just ignorant of it, whatever the circumstances were, you never studied it, you are still part of the Jewish people. Yisrael af al pi shechata Yisraelhu. The Jewish people, even though they sinned, are still part of the
Yeah.
Jewish people. No one can leave. We're all one, bound by one. And we've seen this past year,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that lesson has come home to really tell in the Jewish people that no one makes really a difference whether how religious you are, how observant you are, or how many mitzvahs you did.
Right.
Doesn't matter to the world. To the world, that they look at the Jewish people as one. And we should look at ourselves as one as well. And when we get that message, when we understand that we are really in this together, then the Sukkot is a beautiful, beautiful holiday. It just reminds me of the times when the Rebbe was still here, and he had a lulav and a nesrig. Of course, a beautiful lulav, and he had a number of different nesrigim that he would have, but one that he would use during prayer. He allowed for the community to come and to use it. So they would start services at 10 o'clock. So from about 8 o'clock, there was a man by the name of Rameir Harlik, and he would stand in a sukkah, and everyone had a chance to walk by and hold the Rebbe's lulav and esrig and make a blessing over it. And then when it was time for it was needed for the service, he would stop the line. He would bring it inside to the Rebbe, and he would give the Rebbe the lulav and the esrig. The Rebbe would use it during service, and then he would take it back, and more people would be able to use it. When people asked the Rebbe why he would allow people to handle it, because if you drop it or you could bust it, you can cause a hole in it. The Rebbe said something very interesting. To him, the beauty of the esrig are the fingerprints on the esrig. That's the
beautiful.
beauty. Now, you've seen people pick an esrig, they go nuts because it's supposed to be yellow with no spots and no dots and no dirt and no schmert, and they bring a magnifying glass.
And
You
spend
should
tons
see
of
at the
money.
length that these go, and they look at it and they look at it and they won't let anybody touch their esrig because
Yep.
God forbid someone's going to scratch it or someone's going to do this. And the Rebbe had a different perspective. You know what? Thank God he was able to allow, and believe me, if he wanted a private esrig, he would get a
Right.
private esrig. But he allowed people to use his esrig, knowing full well that there were people there that weren't the highest degree of sanctity, that were touching his esrig. To him, it didn't matter. As he said, the fingerprints on the esrig, those are the most beautiful things that he sees on an esrig. That's why he
So
was the Rebbe.
Logistically, if someone wanted to buy a lulav and an esrig,
Yeah.
just go to Amazon, like buy
You
everything else.
definitely could go to Amazon, but I would suggest go to your local Orthodox
Yeah.
congregation and speak to the rabbi and say to the rabbi, I would like to have a lulav and an esrog, and he'll make sure you get them, because when you're buying on Amazon, you have no idea what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You don't know it's kosher, it's not kosher, a good esrog, and not a good esrog. I would go definitely to the closest Orthodox congregation, Chabad. If you have one in town, if you don't have Chabad, you'll find a Chabad rabbi near you, and he will arrange for you to have a lulav and an esrog.
Right.
No questions asked. That's the easiest way to do it.
Okay.
Because again, a friend of mine, was very insistent on buying a sukkah for his son. We tried to arrange it to him through a sukkah store here, but he went online and bought the sukkah, and then his son just told me that it was like 400 pounds.
Gosh.
And then he bought him a beautiful sukkah, but like 400 pounds. And how's he gonna put it up? And how's he going to store it? Where's he going to store it? So the best thing to do is
I mean, I'm sure if you're buying off Amazon, the little Chinese kid that's packaging it out for you is an expert in kashrut,
exactly,
and is absolutely making sure that there are
Totally.
not going to be any issues there whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
I want to just go touch a point that you mentioned briefly, but it's really, if you can have a sukkah, and it doesn't have to be fancy, and it doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be any of those things. My favorite part of the holiday, why I love it, is because we host every meal, and every meal the whole week is it's like a party, you know? And yeah, it's a little crazy and I work very hard and I do a lot of cooking and a lot of setting and a lot of cleaning and I probably will complain, but I really love it.
Probably.
Not probably.
Wow.
Not probably.
Wow.
Not probably.
This year I'm not gonna complain, Blinader. I'm not gonna promise that. But
yeah, don't make promises you can't keep.
No, don't say
but
that.
it's such a beautiful time. And one of the things that someone once said, and I think about it every single year at Sukkot, is like we're sitting in the Sukkah all together. And, you know, I have a big Sukkah. I'm very lucky. And we have lots of guests every meal, probably 30 something guests every meal. And you just leave everything in your house behind, right? Like all of your materialism, all the things that you worry about on a daily basis are just left inside and you're outside. You're kind of freed from everything in a way. And I really actually do feel unburdened by what's in like not having those things around me, because when I sit in my dining room, which I like my dining room too and I have a lot of guests there too, but you know things are constantly catching my eye, like, oh, I need to do that, I need to clean up that shelf, I need to replace that, this bothers me, the floor. And when I'm in the Sukkah, I just don't have any of that pressure. I'm enjoying every minute of it, and it's really a good opportunity. And I want to encourage people, if you can have a Sukkah and you can have guests over, it's really a special time to do that. And or go to a Sukkah.
somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to host.
Exactly.
If you're not a hosting type,
Yeah.
go somewhere.
Chabad will definitely.
Every Chabad Sukkah is going to be full, and they'll be more than happy to have you. More than happy.
Definitely go.
And again, there's not enough. That I can't encourage enough for people to really enjoy this holiday. I mean, because even though that we are smart, and I say this, and Haile is going to have a comment on this. I say, even though that we think of ourselves as very smart people, you know, the Jewish people always, oh, we're such brainiacs, you know, and all of that. We're pretty dumb when it comes to choosing holidays, because we pick Yom Kippur, which you got to fast, and Pesach, which has nothing to eat. Okay, so those are the two big holidays that we go and celebrate. Here you have a beautiful holiday, especially here in California, where you have nothing to worry about. It's not raining and it's not over. Sometimes it gets a little hot. But, you know, you sit and you just enjoy, and it's such a beautiful holiday to come together, everybody. And I can't encourage people enough to take advantage of this holiday that comes right after Yom Kippur.
That's right.
So earlier, Haile, you alluded to the fact that the holiday, it's a week long. It gets split up into three sections, if you will. So, Rabbi, could you describe what the three parts or sections of the week are?
So there are in the Torah, when the Torah describes a holiday, it'll tell us that this is a day of sanctity, and when it's sanctified, no work is allowed to be done. It's like Shabbat. When Shabbat comes, you have to have everything ready by the evening, and when Shabbos comes, everything is done for you. Same thing is true about our holidays: Passover, Shavuos, and Sukkot. So on Sukkot, it's day one is a holiday, and we celebrate 2 days of Sukkot because it's a technical reason that in the days of when they in the temple, when they only knew about the calendar through witnesses coming to declaring a new moon, the word didn't get out to the outlying communities outside of Israel, so they established, because a month could only be 29 or 30 days, it's called this Yontav Sheni Shel Golius. The second day is because we're not sure if it's the 14th or the 15th or the 15th or the 16th, so we keep 2 days of Sukkot. So that day, that first day, and in the diaspora, 2 days, those are sanctified holidays. Those are non-working holidays. There's special prayers for the holidays, special Torah readings for the holidays. The meals are different. The next few days, the days 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, those are what we call Chol Hamoed. It's the mundane part of the holiday, meaning it's still the holiday of Sukkot. We eat in the Sukkah, we take the lulav in the esrog, but you can go to work, you can drive, you can do everything that you do on a regular day. Not everything. I shouldn't say not everything. There's certain restrictions that you still can do on a Chol Hamoed, but it's a day that it's a common day. So that's the middle part of Sukkot. Then the Torah throws in that on the 8th day of Sukkot, it should be an atzeret. It should be a convocation and a restrictive day. And that's also a holiday. That became a holiday. And the reason for that is, the rabbis tell us, is that, during the first 7 days of Sukkot, many sacrifices were brought, and they represented, not only the Jewish people, but all of the nations of the world. So sacrifices were brought for them. On the 8th day, God says, okay, you know what? We celebrated with everybody around the world. I want one day for me and you to be alone. And that's called Shmini Atzeres. So there's one sacrifice is brought specifically for that day. And that's a holy convocation that Jews and God gather together, to celebrate. And that's the 8th day. Now, the 8th day of Sukkot, you don't have to sit in a sukkah. Shmini Atzeres is after the holiday. But since we're kind of still celebrating the sukkahs, so Hasidim do sit in the sukkah even on the 8th day. Okay, now since it's the 8th day and we celebrate 2 days, so we added a 9th day. The 9th day here in the diaspora is called Simchat Torah, is the rejoicing with the Torah. Now in Israel, they have only 1 day, and I know I'm getting a little technical here. In Israel, they only have 1 day. So Shmini Atzeres and Simchat Torah are 1 day.
They're the same day.
So they only have
the same day.
The same day. So they only have 8 days. We have 9 days. So we have Shmini Atzeres and Simchat Torah that we celebrate. Now, Simchat Torah, no one sits in the sukkah. That's all celebrated indoors, and that is a blowout celebration for the Torah. We've organized that the reading of the 5 books of Moses, which we call the Chumash, the Torah, is read annually, and it's finished on Simchas Torah. So with the finishing of the cycle, we have what we call hakafas, which is dancing around in a circle. It's very fancy. The footwork there, you should see, is amazing. People say that Jews don't have rhythm. Go to your local Chabad shul on
really
Simchas Torah. You will see we put Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire to shame. The footwork that goes on there is
It is
incredible.
really fun, though.
One foot in front of the other, one hand on the other guy's shoulder, round and round we go. The wheels on the bus go round and round.
Dance around.
That we do. Dance around and around. It's the most joyous of, it's after 9 days. This is, eating in the sukkah, and maybe I'm not saying we do, but maybe we imbibe a little bit,
drinking.
Of a little bit of drinking, just a little, just to make ourselves just a little happy. Don't overdo it, but just maybe 1 or 2 shots of scotch or bourbon or something like that.
Yes,
there's not a lot of drinking. There's not a lot. The Rebbe said only 4 for if you're under 40, but if you're over 40, a little more, but don't go overboard, because that's nothing to do with the holiday. Being drunk and being stupid has nothing to do with the holiday. The joy of the holiday is the dancing of the Torah, and a little bit, like, and the custom is to take a little shot, 1 or 2, and then, but it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And you go into an Orthodox shul on the evening of Simchas Torah, and also on the day of Simchas Torah. It's just unbridled
really
joy.
amazing.
I mean, just people just singing and singing and singing and dancing and passing the Torahs one to each other and holding on to the Torah. Now, people ask the question, if you're celebrating the Torah and you want to show the greatness of the Torah, why don't you study? The Torah is there, that this is your wisdom and your understanding to the eyes of the world. So why don't you study? You should sit down and give classes. No. No. The way we celebrate is, even if someone has not studied Torah and the Torah is covered, even he also has a part in the Torah, because every Jew has a part of the Torah. And that's why we specifically do it with dancing with our feet, which is at the opposite end of the spectrum from our heads. And the mitzvah is to dance, literally to lift your feet up and to dance, and just to have a good time, and to realize how lucky we are to be part of these people that, that accepted the Torah 3,500 and years ago, in the desert, and we today, 3,500 years later.
That's
I mean,
incredible.
So it's longer than the warranty on my car. 3,500 years later, are still doing the same thing, dancing with the Torah, rejoicing in the Torah, loving the Torah, caring for the Torah, caring for each other. And it's just, I'm so sad for people that, just come for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then leave and think that that's the highlight of the year. When really this is the highlight. This is it goes from one day Sukkot to another day, and it keeps building and building and like a crescendo. And it culminates in this tremendous 24 hours of Simchas Torah. It's just it's something
I want to
special.
just suggest
Now,
one thing, Jay. I'm going to put it in here so we remember to do this. I think we should, when we release this episode, I think we should include a glossary so that we can list all the words, because there were a lot of words said today in the episode that I think people might want to be able to look back at and remind themselves what it means. So if you're listening and you heard a lot of words that are new, go to our Substack, and we will, in the email, or if you are a subscriber, you'll get a glossary with all the different explanations for what hakafot are, all the holiday names, and what's Chol Hamoed, and we'll include all of the words that, because there were a lot of new ideas today, I think. So we'll include them all.
So I'll just touch briefly upon a question that people ask. Why is Simchas Torah celebrated around Sukkot and not Shavuot? Shavuot, I mentioned before a little while ago, is the celebration and the commemoration of giving of the Torah. It makes most sense that the Torah should be celebrated. Simchas Torah should be celebrated on Shavuot. And Shavuot, we stay up all night to study Torah. We do a lot of Torah studying on Shavuot. But why not Simchas Torah then? So someone gave an analogy, which I will very briefly, I will tell this story very briefly, but I love this story. There was once a king and a queen. Now, in the days when king and queens were real, not like we have today kings and queens, which are like ceremonial. I mean, these were, unfortunately for this couple, the queen was not able to conceive, no matter what she tried, and the king tried everything. But someone mentioned, after many, 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 many attempts, through modern medicine, whatever they had over there, that at the end of the kingdom, there was this woman. I'm not sure what I would call her. Whatever it is, she was something spiritual, and she was known to give blessings. Well, the king at first was very skeptical about going to the end of the kingdom to meet this old woman that was giving blessings for kids. But the queen asked him, please, without an heir, it's, what are you going to do here? I mean, you're not getting any younger. So they packed up and they traveled to the end of the kingdom, and they found this woman in a tent, and they came in to speak to her, and they said to her, we're here, king and queen, and we'd like to know if what's our destiny? Will we ever have a child? And the woman told them, yes, your destiny is you will have a child, but on one condition. And what is that? That's as soon as the queen becomes pregnant, you take the queen and you send her with a community of other women to an island, and no man is allowed to lay eyes on her until her wedding day. That's it. Not you, king. Nobody. No man is allowed to lay eyes on the princess until her wedding day. If you accept this, you will be blessed with a daughter. If you don't accept this condition, it's over. The king at first was like, come on, I'm not going to see my daughter till she gets married. But the old woman was very stubborn and says, no, no one. No man will lay eyes on her. So the queen looked, beseechingly in the king's eyes, and the king said, okay, I agree. So they went home, and kachav, so was it. She got pregnant, and the king took her and a bunch of women, nurses and teachers, and and sent her to an island, and set a fleet of naval vessels around the island. So no one was allowed to go onto the island except for when provisions came. And that was only delivered by women. And the queen gave birth, and she sent a letter to the king, and she said, you have a beautiful daughter, and she has blue eye, and this, whatever. She's gorgeous. And, as time went on, the queen kept writing him, oh, today she took her first steps. Oh, today she got her first tooth. Oh, today she did this. Today she did that. And every time, oh, today she sat down and she wrote. And then eventually the princess was able to write, dear daddy, then this is what's going on in the island. And the queen was telling her how beautiful she's growing and how smart she is. And time went on, and the king's heart was just busting. I mean, he just wanted it. Well, finally the day came. She was 21. The king decided it's time for her to get married. 21 is a good age. So he put out a decree in the kingdom. Anybody that wants to marry the princess, show up at the kingdom this and this day, this and this time. Boom. The day came, thousands came. The king comes out on the porch and he says to everybody, gentlemen, I'm glad you made the trek here. And I have to tell you something. My daughter is beautiful and this and that and that, and but you're not going to be able to date her. The only time you will be able to see her is after the chuppah, meaning that after you get married, we'll take off her veil, and that's when you're going to, first time that you are going to be able to see the, everybody said to themselves, okay, Brian, yeah, of course he says that. Probably I can imagine what she's like, and then this and that. So everybody took off. Everybody took off except one person. He stood there, and the king looked down at him and said, are you not skeptical? Are you not cynical that I'm selling you a bag of goods? He says, no. If the king says she's good, I'm willing to go. So the king said, okay, you're in. You're going to marry the princess. So the day came. The king made a huge wedding, and the chuppah was set up, and the king himself, his heart, he had never seen his daughter, and the groom was standing there. The groom, skinny as a broom, was standing under the chuppah, and the procession comes down, and she's covered with a veil, and they come under the chuppah, and both the king and the groom are like sweating it out. The groom more than the king. The king will love her no matter what, but the groom is like, oh my, okay, let's see. And then, of course, he breaks the glass, and they take off the veil, and it reveals the most beautiful, beautiful woman. She's standing there. The princess is just absolutely gorgeous. A movie star. Like my mother would say, a movie star. Literally a movie star. Okay? Yeah, they have a wedding, and the wedding, is incredible. Absolutely incredible. The king sees her. She's better than was advertised. Smart, brilliant, beautiful, everything. Good character. Fine. 6 months later, the king is sitting in his office, and his son-in-law comes in. Well, now he's the prince. And the prince says, Your Highness, I have a request from you. He said, what's that? I would like to have another wedding. He says, what? I would like to have another wedding. He says, why? Why would you have another one? We had a beautiful wedding. He says, I'll tell you something, King. And you can relate to this because I know that you were also looking very anxiously. We had no idea what the princess would be like when the wedding was. Neither you saw her, I didn't see her, no one saw her. I know you got reports about her, but you always, they were going to flatter you. And I came into this wedding so anxious. And for in the first few weeks, I was so anxious to find out, because usually you date a person, you know something about them. Here you knew nothing about the princess. Now that I've been with her for 6 months, I see that she is more than I could have ever have imagined. She is so beautiful and so kind and so righteous and so good and so smart and everything. Now I want to come to the wedding where I can enjoy myself. At last time's wedding, I couldn't enjoy myself. And the parable goes on to say this was the same thing true about the Jews. When they received the Torah, they were excited, but no one had ever gotten the Torah. God went around to the entire world and said, would you like it? No. Would you like it? No. The Jews said, yes, we'd like it, but we're anxious. What is the Torah like? What is it going to be? After 6 months, when Sukkot comes around, and the Jews say, oh God, the Torah is better and more precious than you could have ever explained to us. It is the greatest gift that anybody could have given to us. Now it's time to rejoice. And that's why we rejoice on Simchat Torah, not on Shavuos, because we saw how beautiful and how precious and how great and how holy the Torah is, and what it does to us as a human being. Come Sukkot, we are partying because we know how great it is, and we will never separate. You can't separate the Torah from the Jewish people or the Jewish people from the Torah. Just like you can't separate Jews from each other, or Jews from the land of Israel, or Jews from God. These four elements, God, the Jewish people, the Torah, and the land of Israel, form a bond that is unbreakable, absolutely unbreakable. And therefore, when we understand how beautiful the Torah is, that's the time to really rejoice.
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard you tell
Yeah,
that story, actually. I
No?
don't think so,
Okay.
maybe. But
Okay.
that's a
All right.
great
that
parable.
is. I was just, as you were telling the story, and you know, I think about this a lot, you know, because I grew up obviously in a very Orthodox home, and I was able to experience Judaism and the holidays and the Torah through a certain lens. And but I also grew up in a place like Long Beach, California, where a lot of my friends and the people around us were not Orthodox. And so parallel to my experience, I was watching them experience Judaism through our lens, right? So they would come to our house for the holidays, or they would come to our shul for, let's say, Simchas Torah. And I've never seen the amount of kind of curiosity and enjoyment that you would see from non-Orthodox Jews on Simchas Torah in shul. And a certain amount, I think, and I don't want to say this in a negative way, but almost an envy when you would watch, because when you watch the community dancing and being joyful, and the way that even the kids are so in rapture with what's happening, and they're so excited, and everybody's just on in the best mood, right? And I always remember as a kid watching the people watching us. Does that make sense? And it really left an
Oh,
impression on me, you know. And then I told this story a few weeks ago, or I don't remember when, but you know, this year, unfortunately, Simchas Torah, this past Simchas Torah was the day of October 7th. And so they really hurt us on our most joyous day, which is just something that we can't even, I personally have not been able to like grapple with that reality yet, that they came in and tried to ruin our most precious day. But what I experienced here, because we're so behind in California time wise, you know, we were forced to celebrate Simchas Torah, knowing what was going on in Israel, knowing sort of not the extent of the tragedy yet, but you know that there was a big tragedy, and watching the community get together and continue to dance with the Torah, even while tears were streaming down their faces. I mean, I was watching people dance and sing while sobbing and trying to like celebrate, and we're scared and nervous and mourn all at the same time. It was just, it felt like a real culmination of Jewish history in that moment. And I met, I'm not going to tell the whole story because I did tell it on, I remember that I told in another podcast, but one of the beautiful things we do during the day of Simchas Torah is everybody in all the men in an Orthodox shul, not the women, get called up to the Torah. So we read the last part of the Torah multiple times so that everybody who's in the room gets a chance to get called up to get an aliyah. And it's really interesting because you're reading how many, is it 5 sections, I think? Tav V'Zayis Bracha is divided
when
into 5. So you're doing it
yeah.
multiple times, right? Like in our shul, we'll
Yeah,
do it
yeah, you do multiple
7
times.
times,
No,
right?
6. It's not into 6, but 5 get
5 get called up.
done over
Right.
and over.
And then the
Yeah.
last calling, they call up all the children together in the whole shul, all the kids, anybody under bar and bas mitzvah, all the boys and the girls and the babies, everybody comes up to the Torah together, and they hold a talit over the kids, over the, you know, 4 men hold it, and they sing a beautiful song about the children basically. And it's just such an emotional moment. And it was like we did it on that day last year, and we do it every year. And I met somebody in Israel who was talking about how they were doing it in shul that day, even knowing what was going on just you know, a couple of miles from them. And if we want our kids to care about being Jewish and to care about the Torah, it's these kinds of moments that they have to experience. Because when you stand there and watch all the adults around you just consumed by emotion, it leaves an impression on you, you know, whether it's joy or sadness, or whether it's excitement and dancing or being serious at a time where you need to be serious. When you're watching all the adults around you experiencing those in a very real way, that's what makes a lasting impression. And when you take it seriously, that's how you end up with kids who want to come back for next year's Simchas Torah and next year's Sukkot and next year's, you know, Rosh Hashanah even. So I really encourage people to, if you haven't ever gone to shul, go for Simchas Torah. It's really worth it. It's really, really worth it.
There's no
Yeah.
question. Authenticity.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Authenticity. You just can't substitute
Yeah.
for that. When you see people that are just simply happy for the
Yeah.
moment and being joyous in the moment, we talk a little about mindfulness, mindfulness. You'll go to seminars about mindfulness. This is the great example of mindfulness, living right here in the moment with the Torah, not worrying about anything else. It's going to be very interesting what happens this
Yeah.
Simchas Torah. I think that we're going to have to make a very special effort to really go
Yeah.
beyond. I mean, because the only way that we're going to honor these people that perished so tragically last year on
Yeah.
Simchas Torah is to show the world that, we will not be bowed. We will just not be bowed. Like you said, you'll not take this away
Yeah.
from us, that we will rejoice in their memory, knowing that, that they're with Hashem and they're upstairs and they're
Yeah.
dancing on Simchas Torah, with the Torah upstairs, and we're dancing down here, and we're a reflection of them, and their souls are bound up in our souls, and we will give it a best shot to rejoice more than we've done in the
Yeah.
past, more than we've done in the past. And even though that, it's still a very tense situation now in Israel, and every day you worry about, the soldiers and the families and the hostages and all of these things. But when comes Simchas Torah, I promise you that in most shuls around the world, you are going to see a tremendous amount of joy that is going to be exuded, because we know that this is the only way that we are going to truly and really honor the memory of these people that passed.
I want, just before, I don't know if Jay, if you have any more questions, but I want to just, we didn't mention that when we finish reading it, we read the last section of the Torah, the absolute last part, and immediately we go into starting over again, and we start at Genesis 1, and we read the first section of Genesis right after. It's one of my favorite moments of the entire year, because it's that continuity, right? It's the idea that every single year we complete the cycle of reading the Torah, and how lucky are we that we get to do this again. And again, it's the kids being super excited. In our soul, we have a funny little custom where that during, when we do the 6 days of creation and then Shabbat, there's like a break in between each one, and the kids run around the Torah and they have a special little song they sing. For my kids, that's the highlight of the year. One of the highlights of the year is that those 2 to 3 minutes that they get to do that is something that they think about, almost all year, and it's exciting for them. And how beautiful to make the Torah so, the kids feel so connected to it, right? It's alive to them, starting it over right then. So it's just a beautiful holiday. It's a really, really beautiful holiday.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I certainly am not a theologian, so I'm not
You're
an
not?
expert on
That's weird.
other religion. No, yeah, shocking, I know. Um, but it is interesting how the celebration is about the central text,
Yeah.
as opposed to a lot of other religious holidays are about
Yeah.
symbols,
Or people.
symbols
Yeah.
of events, or
Right.
or people,
Yeah.
or things like that. And but this is about, specifically is about, the central, like, not just reading the central text of the religion, but
Yeah.
is about like physically
Yeah.
it being there with you, and celebrating its physical existence, not just its
Yeah.
conceptual
What you're saying is
existence.
actually so much deeper than that, because even the way we honor the Torah physically, the way we keep it tightly closed up, and we cover it with a beautiful covering, and the kids know you don't touch it unless an adult is helping you. And there's a moment with all 4 of my boys when they were old enough to hold the Torah by themselves, and it was such a big moment for them, to get that, to have that honor. It felt like a moment, in their lives. And I think about our most precious items, our most precious things. We keep them close to ourselves, right? We keep them tightly wrapped up, and we don't want the world to just, look at it and touch it and ruin it. And there's not, and in our life, there's nothing more precious than the Torah. And it's a beautiful
Right.
idea watching it, and just taking them out of the ark and dancing with them. I know some synagogues, not Orthodox, because this is very not, this is real not Orthodox things, but they'll like open it all up and have it like around the room. I know a lot of Reform synagogues do that. That's like the opposite of what we do. We keep it tightly closed, very much covered, unless we're reading from it for a holy purpose. And I just think there's something beautiful
Mm,
about that.
yeah.
And then and the great advantage is everybody can
Right.
celebrate. You don't have to be someone special. You don't have to be a rabbi. You don't have to be a scholar. You don't have to be anyone that reads Hebrew. You don't have to be going to shul every day. Everyone from old to young to middle-aged can celebrate with this. Because, I mean, the amount of steps that we do on Simchat Torah, the dancing, everyone can imitate. I promise. I promise everyone can imitate that.
There's no choreography that you have to learn beforehand.
There's one thing in our show, we have a little custom afterwards. We do somersaults. We call
everybody does a somersault.
To do the somersault. It has nothing to do with the Simchat Torah. Nothing. This is after the Torahs are put away back in their ark, and they're safe and sound. Then afterwards we have this little custom, and we have people doing now. The somersault is already an acquired skill. Not everyone can do a good somersault. There are some guys that just roll around like rolling, but a somersault is something that you can practice.
I want to recommend one thing. If there's a movie, it's in Hebrew, but it has English subtitles. It's called edJEWcation, and I really, really want to encourage people, if they haven't seen it, to try and find it somewhere. I think it's available online. It might be on YouTube. I'm not sure. edJEWcation is such a beautiful movie that I'm not going to say. I mean, it's a.
No,
I'm not going to say. Ooh, where'd he go? I'm not going to say what it is, but it's a beautiful, beautiful movie that everybody should watch. I won't give away the plot, but trust me. Trust me. You should.
It's well worth your time.
Exactly.
Well worth your time.
Definitely something to take time and watch, and it's just a beautiful, wonderful movie. I'll try to put a link to it in our Substack if we can find it somewhere.
Yeah,
great. It came, I don't know what, 15 years
ago.
Yeah,
it's probably about 15 years old, and it's a movie that will make you laugh and cry, and it really captures in a way the essence of what Sukkot means to us, and in a way that's beautiful. I mean, in the concept of edJEWcation in general, we didn't really touch on, but there's this idea that every night of Sukkot, one of our forefathers, or the famous sort of Jewish leaders,
great shepherds,
the shepherds of the Jew, and the Rebbes, if you're Chabad, come to visit your Sukkah. And so they're like their spiritual, whatever, and they're visiting you. So whatever, you'll see watch the movie. It's really worth it. Did you have any other questions, Jay, before we?
No, I think we
covered it.
I think we covered it.
Okay. Are you booking a ticket to come spend Simchat Torah here?
Oh, I wish.
Obviously.
You should.
I would. For 1 year, we were definitely going to do it for sure.
One day we're going to get Jay out here for sure,
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I think Simchat Torah would be a good one. That would be it would be a good one.
Yeah. Yes. We will do that, and we'll have to record it and put it on YouTube and
no recording.
That's right. We can't.
That's one of the best parts is that nobody's worried about what is happening because there's no cameras or no phones, and it's just super fun.
It's actually better for me. No one will have to see my dancing. So that's aside from the people in my immediate surroundings.
That's true. That is true.
Everyone should be thankful for that.
Well, happy Sukkot, everyone, and
happy Sukkot, and have a wonderful holiday season.
That's right.